All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. It looked like we didn't know who was going to start talking there, so I just started it. So,
I'm just going to hold out.
welcome. We're joined by Brandon, Mary, and Lewis. I want to say special appearance by Mary. I know Mary's been with Brandon on other shows before, but I think this is the first time where Mary's been on with myself and Lewis. I could be no, you were on once before, I think,
With Lewis, but
not with me.
all of
So
us.
with all of us together, yeah. So this is just it's a great gathering. I hope everyone's doing well. And Lewis, how are you, brother?
Oh, I'm always blessed, man. Excited to explore some more stuff with you.
Fantastic. Brandon, you doing great?
Every day, man. Yeah, doing very, very well.
Great.
Yeah,
And
especially these days.
And to our special guest, Mary, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for asking.
No problem. All right. So, Lewis, I believe the floor is yours, and you're more than welcome to take it from here.
Thank you. Just want to make sure my audio's okay. You can hear me fine the way I am. Yeah.
Amazing.
Very well. Very well.
Crystal
Yep.
clear.
Blessed. Here we go. And we see that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you remember from the last slide, they, did the tornado or whatever, and then they met Guy for the first time. So they then surround Guy because he has the fire. They are wary of enlightenment and new things. The rest of the family are intrigued by the fire and stare at it, whilst the dad, the ego, wants everyone to be scared of it because it's new and unknown. Yet again, we see the fear of the unknown from the family, but mainly the dad. Guy then calls them animals, basically what we call sheep or sheeple, because they are cavemen, primitive in their mind and in their outlook. They all then begrudgingly agree to travel to the mountain guided by the new guide, Guy. However, as a part of the deal, the dad wants to keep Guy contained as to not branch far from his reach. He wants to keep a close eye on him, basically. The dad only allows him to extend as far as he can control him because he realizes that Guy is useful, and he's, of course, jealous of the relationship between Guy and his daughter. The ego wants to remain in control. Guy then tells his story of how he came to be out on his own, journeying towards the light, towards tomorrow. All listen except the dad, because Guy is new, illuminated, and he doesn't like him in general. Notice how, like Eep, he is at an elevated position in the bottom left just there, compared to the rest of them, showing us again that he is higher than the rest of the family in relation to their consciousness. Guy then starts a story and he says, she lived in a cave with the rest of her family. Her father and mother told her, you may go anywhere you want, but never go near the cliff, for you could fall. What the mother was warning about was to be wary of the leap of faith that we've discussed many times. Be wary of wanting to go beyond what most people think is possible, because of the dangers presented by the leap, i.e. the fall. Most fear the fall more than they fear remaining where they are, and so people just stay. He then says she'd go near the cliff, for the closer she came to the edge, the more she could hear, the more she could see, the more she could feel. Finally, she stood at the very edge. She saw a light. She leaned out to touch it, and she slipped, and she flew. And what he's saying here essentially is that the closer she got to the edge of the cliff, the closer she was to attaining her true state of being. This is why she became more like herself. She could feel more, she could see more. And so the closer she got to the edge of the cliff, the closer she got to the light. The closer you get to the light, the more you are illuminated. The more illuminated you are, the more you can see. And so when you can see more, you can be more. You can see yourself more clearly. You can see what is, what isn't. You see your strengths, your flaws, your character. Through the process to become enlightened or illuminated, this means to see something as it is, i.e. truth. We become who we are by seeing who we are not. What does the fact that she fell signify? Well, to me, it signifies a desire to touch the light, to literally see what is out there. Just like Alice in Wonderland, she wanted more out of her life than what society wanted of her. However, she didn't realize that the path to elevation was through falling. because, of course, it's a paradox. At the end of the film, she solved the riddle. Are you the right Alice? I.e., are you the real you? Are you encapsulating the essence of your being and being as Alice as you can be? Are you, listener, in your own life being the most Dave, the most Brandon, the most Mary, Mike, Josh, Steve, Lisa you can be? Are you being who you say you are? Or are you being who others expect you to be? Falling into a dark hole means going into uncharted waters, exploring the abyss, exploring parts of yourself that you never knew were there. Often it takes you going into a dark tunnel for you to come out clean the other sides. Or in other words, free of sin, now that you have endured the dark, and some might view this as karma, although I see it as willingly choosing to escape hell to then reach heaven. Because you can choose to remain hell if the climb scares you or is too arduous. Not only that, but you can choose to become a demon yourself, inverting yourself to then match the environment. Like the abused who so often become the abuser, the fallen become the demons of this world and force the innocent to endure hell with them. We see this in depictions of the underworld, where the dead drag the living into eternal damnation. A notable example perhaps being Hercules. We also see the motif of coming out clean the other side of a dark tunnel at the end of Shawshank Redemption, one of my personal favourite films, by the way. You got to watch it if you haven't. Once she leaned in to touch the light, she flew. Another word for flew is rose or elevated. Guy then says that she flew to a place called tomorrow, a place not like today or yesterday, a place where things are better. From this, we can extrapolate one word: potential. Things tomorrow can always be better because you have the choice of being better, of doing more, or of doing less. You have the option. You have the foresight to prepare yourself to do something nice, to be more patient, to slow down, to react differently than you did the day before or today. The beginning of the rest of your life begins tomorrow. And so who will you be? The potential of tomorrow is the potential of what if. What if I made that phone call? What if I leave this place? What if I ask that person out? What if, what if, what if? What could your life look like if you only did the things you fear to do? The future lies with you, for your potential is as broad as your intention to enforce it. The father, Grug, then gets angry and says, tomorrow isn't a place, you can't see it. And he's right, for his way of being. The ego is a survivor, and one of its many jobs is to keep you alive and keep you safe. It does this by keeping you secure and safe and predictable circumstances. But because they're outside the cave, i.e. outside of predictability, the ego cannot see beyond its need for survival, and so the dad cannot see tomorrow. It lives in the perpetual state of survival. The story he tells essentially is the leap of faith, an instance represented by a cliff. The closer you get to the edge, the closer you are to the next potential level. The biggest gap is the one between where you are and where you could be if you only had the courage to jump. The jump is something that is done with the heart, and we see this in The Matrix when Neo feels, and it doesn't make any rational sense, he feels like he has to go save Morpheus. We see this in, I can't think what the painting's called, but this painting here, represented by the triangle, created the separation of the two fingers. Again, this is a sign of the feminine. This is the heart. We also see in the painting that if it would only raise, lift, or elevate his hand, then he could find the connection to the divine. Not only a connection, but a oneness of sorts. It takes him reaching out, leaning forward into the connection. The index finger is also associated with the heart chakra, as we can see here. And this is why perhaps they choose those fingers in particular in that painting. They then come across thorns in the ground, and we can view this as a need to be wary and protect ourselves when traversing things that have sharp edges. It's good to be wary of things that can hurt you. The protection that they all use is there. After Guy makes them the shoes to stop the thorns poking their feet, this shows the usefulness of having boundaries, physical and mental boundaries that can serve to protect us from getting hurt from something that has the potential to harm you, i.e. a person, a job, a place, etc. Using their mind, Guy, they overcome the previous challenges that the dad ran into. Earlier on in the film, we see the obstacles that the dad got into and couldn't solve, the danger of the monkeys, which beat him up, the danger of the tiger as well. Using the mind, Guy, they conquer the previous challenges, and just like in the Wizard of Oz, when they come together, they can defeat the witch and come closer to the Emerald City. When the ego tries to do it his way, he gets attacked by the tiger, and as the saying goes, gets brought down a peg or two. The removal of his stilts in the bottom right just there. Along their journey to tomorrow and the sun, you'll notice that Eep and Guy grow closer together. The bond gets stronger, and every time they get together, the dad attempts to disconnect the two. This is because he fears losing control again, and he fears the loss of connection between himself and his daughter. Notice, if you watch the film, how nature punishes him for the attempted removal of the two, the attempted separation. The dad throws a banana peel that Guy gives him, to keep him safe from the monkeys, and then he throws it and slips on the banana. When he tries to get in between Guy and Eep while on the stilts, bottom right, the tiger then attacks him. And lastly, when he steals the makeshift umbrella from which the pair were hugging under, he gets striked by a bolt of lightning, perhaps a metaphor for God/nature's annoyance at his behaviour when attempting to separate and cause division. Just taking a drink. They then stand on a rock above some water. Yet again, we've got the leap of faith. She dismisses her dad's labelling of the water evil just because it's new, and she follows Guy by jumping in the water, showing us her desire to be close to him and that she trusts in the direction that he's taking them. Showing how she's becoming more like herself, coming closer to her adventurous spirit, and moving away from the constant fear that the ego gives her. They then get split up by the entropic forces of nature and find themselves alone without guidance. Now, sometimes in life it's faster and more efficient to split up despite the dangers of the maze. Speaking to how we all have certain strengths and weaknesses and should utilize them accordingly with focus and attention. They now will be presented with new challenges, new environments to pass in order to reach the mountain. And as Dave says, each of us has a unique slice of the pizza, and it is only once we come together and use all the slices that we create the pizza that we want. And in order to do that, in order to create or get what we say we want, we must work collectively yet individually. We must, again, as I keep repeating and will continue to do so, use all the different parts of ourselves to come into balance and harmony with each other. We must also do this as a society, bring all of our collective, subjective experience together to create a world that we want, as opposed to a world that we are presented with. This video shows the various environments and challenges presented to them. Just going to let it play for a second. So the rest of the family find themselves in bliss surroundings, as we can see, whilst the dad finds himself where he's always wanted to be, yet another cave. No challenges to overcome, just a bland and mundane existence with no struggle, no beauty. Along the journey of life, you'll constantly find what you seek, but you must realize that it will never satisfy you. It will never fulfill you, and as such, you will never want to stop exploring. If you are continually searching for things that make you happy, as opposed to being happy with what you have, you will always have the void that so many people are accustomed to. All of them come out from the journey more developed and better off. The mum has nicer hair, the brother has a new friend, Eep and Gaia form a stronger connection together and become closer. The grandma and the baby have a beautiful flower that they brought along. The only one that hasn't brought anything along with them is the dad, who is still stuck in the cave. As we discussed earlier, there is no struggle, nothing to overcome, and so we are left with monotony. There is no opportunity to see the light when all you see is grey. They all have something to work towards. For the boy, it was facing his fear of the beast dog-like creature, something that he was told to be afraid of. For the women, it was facing the fears of something new and bright. In this instance, the hostile flowers. For Guy, it was about trusting in others as he's been alone for so long. They then follow the light, a torch that Guy is holding. Again, follow the light. And they all ascend while using the torch sunlight to the top of a tree. And as they reach the top of the tree, they witness a sky full of stars, speaking to hope and potential and possibility. The dad then sort of takes the piss out of Guy by attempting to invent things using his mind like Guy did. And of course, anything that he does simply fails. He's frightened of losing control of Ape, the soul, and so he attempts to dissuade her from going with him throughout the whole film. His immaturity and inability to understand that people may have a dislike, that he may dislike, may know more than him, gets in the way of progress and safety for the family. He only wants to go back to what he's always been told is the truth. But as they look behind them, rubble, ash, and molten lava surround the area, showing us not only can they not go back, but like in life, sometimes going back is much worse than going forward. Of course, this is a case-by-case thing. After they reach the bottom of the mountain, a cloud of smoke erupts from behind them. The dad then does what he's always done and protect his family, find a cave and stay there. But this time, the cave in particular is extremely small and narrow. And by taking the journey, by staying outside Plato's cave and remaining in the light, they have become more enlightened, and as such, there is less darkness within them. There is less dark, less they know about themselves, and as such, the dark cave of ignorance they once lived in is no more, and all is left is a small, tight gap. Due to the advancement and expansion of the family, shown through the costumes and pets after the journey, they realize that they don't want to go back to sleep and refuse to go inside another cave. The dad then states how it's his job to worry and just to follow the rules, which in a way it is. It's a survival thing, but just surviving. It's all he's known, and it worked. As Brandon says, it was a coat you wore because it kept you warm. But now, they're in the sunshine. They no longer need it. It no longer serves you. In order to thrive, you need to be willing to sacrifice everything that keeps you chained up. The Grug, the dad, then attacks the mind Guy because it is getting in the way of the ego controlling the rest of the family. Grug is irrational and counterproductive. The dad then says, big words anger me, speaking again to his fragility. He then tackles Guy, and both now find themselves in tar, or as we say, stuck in the mud. This is why Guy's family died. Their divine spark died. They were stuck in the muds, meaning resistant to change, stubborn, unadventurous. And this is why they told him to always follow the light before they died, because they were aware that it was the very thing that got them stuck. Once the dad then stops resisting, voluntarily gives up control and asks for help, it allows them to escape through working together and allowing Guy to do what he does best, think. We see this theme of non-resistance in Harry Potter with Devil's Snare. Once again, we come to a place where the ego isn't using brute force over your life and allows each part of you to take control when necessary. You can then escape the trap you find yourselves in. It doesn't mean killing the ego. It means using it when it's necessary and not letting it rule over you. They then reunite by beginning to run to the light. So they are about there, and there is the light. I've just added that picture in. Here we see the clouds. So they then reunite and begin running towards the light. To the left and right, we have darkness and destruction, shown by the dark clouds. It stands close to coming between them and the sun. We again have the picture of the cross. Ow. And if we think about them being there, the sun is at the top, and again, elevation. It's a constant theme. We yet again as well have the cloud of forced introspection, where they must decide where they desire to go and what they desire to do. They once again, due to panic and fear, desire to go back to the cave. However, the ego has had enough of the darkness, the ignorance, the fear. He realizes he can't or won't change and is aware of his flaws as well as his strengths. The mother then states how there may be nothing, it's too risky, and this is what fear will do. It highlights all the negatives. It will paint them in bright red in a world full of grey. Then you have to decide what to do with that. They all decide to take the leap of faith and allow the dad to throw them through the fog towards the sun. It's not. Oh yeah, sorry. It wasn't time then to use the ego, the identity, to decide who they wanted to be. Oh no, sorry, it's now time. Sorry, I wrote this wrong. I'm confusing myself. It's now time to use the ego, the identity, to decide who they've always wanted to be. That's better. It's cloudy because the path isn't clear and it's always darkest before the dawn. You must accept yourself for who you are. And this is shown by the dad and Eep hugging and talking. As he tells him he loves her, he has now accepted her for who she is, and she has accepted him. They then finish the hug. The world tests them and begins to shake. It will send you fear and things to test your resolve, to test whether you really are who you say you are, and that you want what you say you want. Remember, God, universe, whomever, doesn't give an impatient man patience. The impatient man instead receives opportunities to be patient. And just like you have endless opportunities to be your greatest, grandest version. How do you do this? You do it by expanding your reality. Shout out to Brandon. You create your reality to an extent. You're on the chessboard, but you control the moves that you make. The ground then splits and the characters are left with a choice. Go back to their old habits or jump across to the other side. Dark versus light, old versus new. The dad chooses the old, as the ego will always do, and Eep chooses the new, because Eep is the soul. As he throws Eep over the rocks, they crumble and break in front of him. He decides to retreat and find a cave. After he finds the cave, he discovers how to make fire. Now momentarily illuminated, he starts to draw his family on the rocks just there. Realizing he is nothing without his connection to his family or other forces. And notice how the cave drawing appears to look like a human head as well, with the family within it. As his fire settles the nerves of the beast, the tiger that he was previously in conflict with, he decides to attempt to use his mind to think of a way to return to his family. He uses all of his experience, all the beasts and demons he's faced. He uses them to escape his situation, showing us the usefulness of evil in our lives. He uses all the tools in his now expanded arsenal. He has now expanded inventory due to him leaving the cage and being a part of all these seemingly negative experiences. But these were the very thing that saved him, the very things that brought him back to his family, reformed a new, stronger bond, and allowed them to live in harmony with their metaphorical beasts. They now have all made the leap of faith, and we see the sea of potentiality lies in front of them. They all then ride their beasts that they feared beforehand, before they took the journey to reach the sun and evolve. After their evolution, they have learned to use their beasts instead of being used by them. Ending notes. The Croods is a film that shows the importance of transcending the levels beyond your comfort zones and just how fruitful they can be. We see the warnings and the faults of the ego, but also the benefits. We are shown how, in order to ascend and grow, we must leave our caves and become one with the dual planes of existence, this dark and light. We are shown the importance of love and how when we use our relationships and how when we can use our relationships to others and the relationships to things within ourselves, we can eventually find ourselves in a beautiful land of possibility. Just like Dorothy, Wendy, and Harry, we must leave home to then find it. Thank you so much.
My God, man.
That was beautiful. That was incredible. Yeah, that was great.
Just outstanding. You nailed it all. Like all of it. We watched that movie and your first presentation on this and loved it, by the way. So it was so cool to see all the symbolism that, of course, you nailed in this. No notes to add, man. Only beautiful. Outstanding.
I'm basically forced to say less and less these days because Lewis is like just plucking from everything that I put out in combination with his own originality and essentially kind of merging the two. And that's when you take it to a whole other level that really impresses me, brother. So I'm quite speechless, to be honest.
Yeah, the way your mind works and the way you see into like all of the little symbolism is really, really cool.
Yeah, very
connections
cool.
you make, even with the colors, the placements of the characters in shot. Like you just, it makes me think like things are so much more thought out than we give them credit for.
Yes.
You know, like when you think of a movie like Kubrick's directing or something like that, how everything is so obsessively to the letter, every little thing. No, this guy's color of the sweatshirt, and then we change because of this, and it's not a film edit issue. You're supposed to think you're in a drink, right? And so like all of these fascinating little tiny details, and you're just picking up on all these things, man. It just shows us that there's so much more symbolism wrapped up in this.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting to think as well whether it was intentional, whether there's always just this layer, these themes that I keep bringing out that are in the subconscious or unconscious, and that when they're doing these films, they naturally put those things there because it's an unconscious thing. You know, it's like an archetype.
This, I think, is what is the maddening part about this. I'm so grateful you brought this up because, yes, it is. Are they either so genius and meticulously detail-oriented to get this esoteric message out, whatever that is, or is it something to where they're tapped into like a muse or something like that? Because I've written a couple songs, man, where I'm like, I have no idea where that came from, but it's banging, you know? And so you sort of get this gift or this insight, and maybe that's just it. Maybe it is this speaking through people. Maybe we call it the muse, maybe something else. Maybe something dark and esoteric is what's taken over Disney to give those people the muses to put the guy here, to make this character that name, you know, and all these things, right? That ties to that Egyptian, whatever. And so it sort of takes the earnest off of that they're just meticulous evil geniuses, and then maybe there's just something etheric that they're channeling that just happens to know exactly how to lay those things out to get the message out. Wild, dude. Brings up more questions. I love it.
This is
another
great.
thing I was just going to mention was the Da Vinci painting, Michelangelo rather, the Sistine Chapel that you saw of Adam and God. That also, when you zoom out of it, of course, that's God inside of what people say is a brain, and it points out the hypothalamus and everything. And so there's that connection. But if you look at the fingers, when you were making that, you did draw a line based off of the angle of the index of God. But if you look closer, it makes a perfect 90 degree, which may speak to Dave's 90 degree vectoring and things like that. And so I think a lot of shit's tied up into that.
I think everything's everywhere.
Everything's everywhere.
Everything's everywhere. Yeah.
It's like what Feynman said. The world, I think I'm paraphrasing. He goes, the world is made up of a bunch of squiggly dynamic things.
yeah. Where you can see sacred geometry and shit, and where people are like, huh, I guess it does look like that. You're like, guys, that's like the mystery of the universe. And they're like, oh, I just thought it looked cool like that, so I built it like that. It's interesting, man. Beautiful job as always, Lewis. We look forward to many more,
guys.
brother.
Appreciate that.
This is banging. Cool. Would anybody have anything else to talk about?
I'm still kind of in
I know.
amazement from what I was watching. So
Guys, check out the Croods if you have it down there. I think it's on Disney for sure, but Amazon?
Netflix as well.
Netflix, that's right. Okay, so you can go check it out and stream it on there. It's worth the watch. There's just some fascinating things that the whole time, especially after something like this, you'll go back and watch it with fresh eyes, with Lewis's eyes here. And that's a gift, man. That's an absolute gift.
100%.
All the ways to find everyone linked down below. Thank you guys all again. Lewis, of course, Dave, Murray, Sam for hanging out and being a good cat and not fucking with shit. Thank you guys. This was awesome.
Cheers,
Cheers.
guys.
Thanks, Lewis.